Good morning, everyone. Jim Laird here from Largo, Florida. It's actually the humidity's kind of been a little reasonable lately. I don't know what's going on, but maybe I'm getting used to it. I don't know. I'm here with my good friend, Charles Mayfield. Charles Mayfield has been a friend of mine for a long time. I was introduced to Charles years ago at PaleoFX by Rob Wolf, some guy named Rob Wolf. And Charles is a champion for restorative, regenerative agriculture, natural products, providing people with skincare that don't have like tons of chemicals and garbage in it. If you're watching this, please leave a comment, a question, subscribe, share it with somebody else who you might find this interesting. Charles, it's been interesting. You've grown up your entire life in agriculture and around farms. The absolutely insane brainwashing / propaganda / attack on what I would call the traditional small farm, traditional, meat production in the name of saving the planet. They're proposing we all eat, chicken grown in a test tube and meat grown in a test tube and eat, plants and bugs and all sorts of things. Like, a lot of people are like, this is just conspiracy. Like, what kind of things are you seeing that, this brainwashing is more than just like a bunch of guys on the computer, like coming up with conspiracy theories?
Well, I mean, Jim, first and foremost, it's great to be here with you. I appreciate coming on with you. So it's cliched, but follow the money, right? That cliche works in many instances, and
On
I
all
think,
things, really, on all things.
yeah, it really does. Sadly, there's some people in the world that are not only following the money but also following nature. But no, I mean, I think this really boils down to, and it's at a fever pitch now. But if you look at the convergence of trademarkable, patentable products as it relates to nutrition, obviously beef is not patentable, and pork, eggs, anything naturally grown, you cannot patent, and therefore charge a premium for intellectual property. So I think from the food side of the court, you've got an intellectual property battle because that's where all the money is, and then you flip that over to the convergence, if you will, of big food, big ag, and big pharma. They're these products that they're pitching don't seem to do much to create healthy humans. And I think in many good ways we're at a tipping point with human health and our ability to tolerate poor nutrition and toxicity in our environment, which is why you're seeing just this glut of obesity and chronic disease and quite frankly fairly nefarious guidance and advice from the gated institutions of medicine.
I think extreme lunacy is the word we're looking for, with the CDC declaring that men can breastfeed and men can have babies, and like just an absolute not only ignoring biological truths, but absolutely stomping on anyone who has these views that are like historically you cannot like argue that these things are even relevant. But the emotional argument and the hate crowd and the cancel culture has just it's just absolute lunacy is the only way I could really describe it.
Yeah, well, when you're malnourished and vitamin B deficient,
You live an indoor zoo human life. I mean, look what happens when we put animals in a zoo. They go nuts. They have to be on drugs and they quit reproducing. So that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that a lot of people are starting to wake up. And again, I do feel like we're at a tipping point as it relates to well, a couple factors. You've got this amazing new technology, the fact that you and I are in two completely different places, and I'm in my car and you're in your office, and we're able to communicate, and then simultaneously that signal goes out to the world.
Yeah.
So people can share their stories, and buck the trends and talk about their successes and what they're seeing in the world, and then others can listen and keep up with those kinds of things. But yeah, I just for me it's been the silver lining of the last couple years is that I first sort of had an inkling of this thing's jumped the shark when the conversation around natural immunity isn't robust.
Yes.
And I've been very, very fortunate to sort of get plugged into some folks like Brett Weinstein and Heather Hine at the Dark Horse. These are two evolutionary biologists, and so they 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 have been a sanctuary of sanity for me over the last couple of years, and just sort of general sense making of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was when ivermectin was labeled horse paste, when all you had to do was go to Google to see that um, it won the Nobel Prize for its impact on humans, and then natural immunity, the arguably the weapon that has brought us to this day is our ability to develop immunity to pathogenic things in the environment. That's not good enough anymore.
Yeah. No more
It's
chicken. No more chicken pox parties.
Dude, I had one of those.
I know it's really funny. I compare like and this will probably get burned down on the internet. That's totally fine. I compare the banning of or the shunning of ivermectin and like hydroxychloroquine would be like banning metformin for type 2 diabetes. Like probably the most studied medication in the history of mankind. It's actually a plant, goes back hundreds of years. It's shown to be insanely safe, especially if you actually change your lifestyle and actually stop living like a dumpster fire. It has actually incredible longevity effects. I would compare that to them coming out and saying, metformin is no longer safe. It's toxic. You can't take it for diabetes. It's the same kind of idiocracy. Are you seeing more people kind of banding together in communities and more people getting into raising their own food, and especially with all the talk about them putting certain things, certain therapies into animals now? Are you seeing more people actually taking charge and like getting chickens and getting relationships with local farmers and things like that?
I'm seeing a little bit more of it. I hang out in my bubble, just like everybody else hangs out in theirs, and but yeah, newer faces, younger faces, which is actually hyper encouraging to the regenerative ag homesteading space. So yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of an uptick. I mean, I can tell you this, market forces are always great indicators. It's been a lot harder to get, chickens or or supplies for like pastured poultry in the last couple years. So I do think a lot of people are taking a little bit more care of where their food comes from, and dipping their toes in the waters of regenerative ag, and so that is encouraging. And at the same time, we still hear this talk of these 15-minute cities,
Yeah.
and aggregating people and vertical farming, and it's the funniest thing about all of it, Jim, is this stuff comes out of the start gate. All of this stuff comes out of the start gate with just such zest and zeal and sexy marketing dollars, pumped behind it. I remember reading an article. This is probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had a bunch of people send it to me. They were converting. I think it was in Denver, Colorado, or somewhere in Colorado. They were converting an old parking garage into this magnificent, vertically integrated, like LED light food production I forget how many millions of dollars they dumped into turning this into this like inner city, food haven. And it was, all the hype, all the publicity. And I think they've closed it down. This is in like less than 4 years. Like they couldn't make it work. And you see the same thing going on with, Beyond Meat and I don't hate the player, hate the game. If you want to go raise a bunch of venture capital money right now, you hop on the ESG DEI train, and you can raise as much money for any harebrained idea you've got. I mean, chicken lab meat grown, chicken grown in a lab seems to be the latest. And at the same time that Beyond Burger and Beyond Meat and all these plant-based meat alternatives are absolutely in the basement. Like they're just cataclysmic falls. I think there's probably going to be a huge lawsuit, or there already is, about mislabeling of these meats. It's funny. It's similar to skincare. I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but the idea that something grown in a lab is somehow more beneficial for you to ingest than something that we have evolved to consume for millions of years is we've lost our intuition, brother. That's the thing.
Well, it's crazy because all these problems that have been presented, everything, the solution was always the opposite of what should have been done, right? When they were telling you to not leave your house, don't go outside, don't exercise, stay in your house, wipe everything down. It just goes completely against everything we know about immunity, the whole deal. Same with the environment. Like if they were serious about the environment, they'd be talking about nuclear power. They'd be talking about regenerative agriculture. All of the things that are being presented are actually harder on the environment than what we're actually doing now. And of course, the people that are preaching this stuff, none of them lead by example. They're flying on private jets to these meetings when they could do it over Zoom. They're buying beachfront property, in places they say are going to be underwater in like 5 years. How many times has, we've been told that, the whole world was ending in the next 10 years, either due to an ice age or a heat wave or whatever. So it's just absolute lunacy. And the best way to protect yourself from this is to stay present, stay healthy, and surround yourself with people that actually can still think and reason and all those sort of things, and then support people that are providing good, high quality products that are actually doing good. And on that note, traditionally, if you look at traditional cultures, you look at historically, animal fats, particularly lard, have been used for skincare for, eons and eons and eons. And I've been to your place, I've seen you raise your hogs, your happy pigs, and all that good stuff. Tell me about how you kind of got into this space. And, I know we've got tons of ladies that watch the show, or even myself. They're sick and tired of putting stuff that has 70,000 ingredients on their skin. How did you get into this space, and kind of how's your operation and all that sort of thing?
Sure. So how I got into it was, well, you and I know each other from the Paleo FX. I think we met back in maybe 14.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But yeah,
that was right around Paleo Comfort Foods. Do they even publish that thing anymore?
I think so. Julie got all the books. Paleo Comfort Foods dropped in 2011.
So 2011. It was somewhere right after that, because I remember we went to your place and you guys cooked up like a unbelievable bread.
That was the Ancestral Health Summit came to Atlanta. That's right. Yeah. That's right. I think that was maybe 13 or 14.
Yeah, it was like Fergoso was there.
Yeah,
that was when I went off this homeless guy asked me to give him some money, and I said, I won't give you money, but I'll feed you. And he said, well, I want some chicken wings. I said, okay, man. So I don't know if you were there, but Sarah Fragoso was there, and John was looking at me like, here I go trucking off towards the CNN building with this homeless guy. They're like, Laird, where are you going? I'm like, I'm gonna go feed this guy. So like we go walking, and the neighborhood just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And of course, I was not worried because I had some personal protection with me, even though it probably wasn't legal. I was not worried at all for my safety. I had the ability to take care of myself. Let's put it that way. And so we continue to keep walking, and we end up at this like dive. And of course, he invites all his friends. So I order everybody chicken wings. There's like 8 of us sitting there eating these chicken wings, and they were actually pretty decent. They were like, it was cooked in like this, like kind of like food truck kind of deal.
Yeah.
It was actually really good. So I sat there for like 45 minutes with these guys. And then of course they up the ante. They're like, hey man, you don't have to hang out with us, but how about you rent us, like get us a hotel so we can crash for the night? I'm like, look, dude, I just fed all you guys. I am not getting you a hotel so you can absolutely trash it. Like, no, like that's
on my dime. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I got to be careful with this. And they were like, okay, man, like, okay, I'm going to go. They're like, thank you so much. And they sent one of the guys with me to kind of walk me out. They're like, we'll take you in a way that you won't get yourself in any trouble. And I was just like, okay. But that was really funny. And of course, Sarah Fragoso and John are like, Jim Laird is an absolute idiot, so it was really fun. I love doing stuff like that. I actually enjoy, like, people will come up to me at the gas station and ask for money, and I'll be like, I'm not going to give you money, but what can I get you? And I'll go in and get them whatever, even if it's junk food, I'll get them whatever they want food wise. I just refuse. And then if they refuse that, then they're totally like, I can't. In Lexington, they have this epidemic of people camping on the side of the road and soliciting money. And I used to get Subway gift cards, like $10, and I'd hold them out through the window, and they'd be like, cash only. And I'm like, well, you're obviously not really starving.
Yeah.
So, well, that's a little side. So you basically looked at the industry, and you have this product, right? You're producing pigs, and you've got this byproduct, which is a wonderful byproduct, lard. I mean, if lard is one of the most versatile fats there is, you can cook with it. Dr. Stillman loves it because we can take things like iodine and have it absorb through the skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great at moisturizing your skin. I use it on my feet because my feet, for some reason, my whole life have been really dry and cracked. And it's really one of the only things, that and Udder Balm, that really, really work on my shocker. Udder Balm works, that really work on my feet. So tell us a little bit more about what you got going on in your product before I railroaded you with the CNN.
I love it, man. I do remember that story because you went on that adventure the day before or the evening before our dinner. So you were recounting that at the house. No, I mean, so history of skincare. We as a culture, or a cornucopia of cultures, we've been fascinated with skin health forever. And prior to, I would argue, prior to the turn of the century, early 1900s, that entire industry was dominated predominantly by animal fats. You've got olive oils, and you can read the Egyptian text, but it was a lot of animal fats, whether it was butter or just rendered fat, the lard, tallows of the world. And so, and also historically, it was really something that was, if you want to call it this, reserved for the elite. And I would make the argument that most regular folks didn't need a skincare routine, even as long ago as maybe 100, 150 years ago, just because most of those people were on a very regular basis in direct contact with animal visceral fat, just due to hunting, gathering, processing. There wasn't a butcher on every corner 75 years ago. There wasn't. When was the first grocery store opened up? Gosh, that's been less than 100 years ago. And so yeah, we've always had this fascination. And then, turn of the century, cottonseed oil production ramps up,
The
predominantly driven.
pharmaceutical industry, the petroleum industry,
All the things. Yeah. And, it really, I mean, if you look at what's happened to farming, if you look at what's happened to skincare, if you look at what happened, you can really sort of point the finger at a couple of different things. Obviously, repurposing nitrogen harvested from the air post World War I and World War II, and then we get synthetic fertilizers and God Almighty, those things. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Synthetic fertilizer is unbelievable at producing a crop this year,
yeah,
but
it doesn't have a good long-term effect. I remember I grew up in a farming community in northern Canada, and I remember the Hutterites. Everyone used to complain because they'd have these giant trucks, the giant like gas trucks of manure, and they would drive them through the fields and just spray the whole field down with manure. And everybody would complain because it stunk, but consistent, and they rotated their crops, consistently year after year. They would just produce like the best produce, the best livestock, year after year after year, because they understood the long game, right? And we don't understand how to, we've done a really horrible job at working with nature. Most of the stuff we've done goes completely against nature. We impose our will on nature instead of working with it.
Yeah, and that's where we've sort of gotten things out of whack. I love the work of Alan Savory. He's done some amazing work. The Savory Institute, for your listeners, if you want to check them out, they've pretty much got the template to reverse desertification and restore our soils. And he in his book, he talks about sort of you have to balance economy, energy, and ecology, right? The three big E's. And this goes for our food supply, it goes for skincare, it goes for a lot of things. We've hyper focused on the economy, right? Make as much as you can, extract as much as you can from our soils, and and burn energy, ad nauseum. Just whatever we can do, get burn through the energy, grow the economy. But over here on the ecology side, we've really let that slide. And so I'm a capitalist. I mean, I have a consumer products company, and I want it to be incredibly successful. It will not be successful to a point where I have to abandon the ecological promises I've made to my clients. Fat, animal fat, especially subcutaneous fat from pigs, you have to raise a healthy, happy pig, which means you have to feed it well. You have to manage it, moving it across the land. It's not stuck in some house where the sun doesn't shine and it's hemmed in with 1,000 of its closest friends that if one pig on the one end of the house gets sick, they all get sick, kind of thing. And so I have to remain committed to that. We're going to use energy as efficiently as possible. This when you get into grazing and a lot of the regenerative practices that Savory espouses, as well as many others, you're taking advantage of the number one free energy source we have each and every day, which is the sun. And so there's a lot of that going on, sort of to circle back around to our company. So yeah, we're about a year and a half in. We're the first Lard based skincare company that I've run across. I mean, I've looked pretty hard. I think there was an Etsy page I saw somewhere, but yeah, we lead with Lard. We have tallow in our products as well, but I make the argument that we say that the Lard works in mysterious ways, and it's true. Now again, you have to raise a healthy, happy pig. This is why Lard is such an amazing fat, both for cooking as well as any and all textile and other product development needs. But pigs and humans share so much biology. I call them four-legged humans. They're highly intelligent as a non-human animal. but they metabolize vitamin D from the sun the same way we do. They're a monogastric omnivore. A lot of the
They'll eat
skincare
absolutely everything and anything, just like we will.
And can actually thrive on most anything, which is another reason why they're such a magical animal. Is you can drop a pig into almost any environment, and they will find a way to thrive.
Well,
And
they will take it
so,
over. They will absolutely dominate it too. Like literally within a generation.
they can, yeah, yeah.
They will absolutely take over, like insanely.
So I want to leverage that, right? I want to leverage the pig gift. We're using a product, we're using a byproduct of eating pork that is, for all intents and purposes, a waste product in today's culture. They're not banging down the door at the grocery store for vats and vats of lard. It's Crisco and vegetable oils and all these various other things. It's funny. I've got my cousin, probably my closest cousin, is a antiquer junker. He goes around and acquires these various things. Got a great eye for this kind of stuff. His house, they have collected probably, I don't know, 100 antique lard cans. Now these are you've seen like the popcorn tins at Christmas, the tricolored popcorn. These are varying sizes of tins from the turn of the century that are all lard, and he's got tins that are 120-pound tins. He's got tins that were 8-pound tins, and they've turned some of them into can lights and this, that, and the other. It's awesome. I love going to visit him. But the point is, 125 years ago, that's all you had, and everyone knew about it. Everyone used it. It was, Crisco. Crisco was dyed white. So cottonseed oil, once it's hydrogenated, is not white. They dyed it white when Procter and Gamble launched Crisco. They dyed it white because the predominant cooking fat at the time was lard, and lard is white for those that don't know. So yeah, I'm got this company. We only have a few SKUs, so let's talk about what's wrong with skincare real quick. So, again, it's a lot like the diet industry. They want you to eat 7 small meals a day and regulate this and regulate that, and you got to count calories and step on the scale, and they've removed you away from your intuition. Like, how do I look? How do I feel? How do I perform? And they've done the same thing in skincare. You need an AM cream and you need a PM cream, and there's a different cream for your eye versus your elbows. Listen, I understand and appreciate. I mean, we have a face specific product because, our face is our billboard, and we wear clothes that cover up most of the rest of our body. And so, how our face looks relative to our chest or back or whatever the case may be is, I understand that. But outside of that, they've convinced us that we need 17 different steps and an AM and a PM routine. It's just like nutrition, just like the last 3 years. No one wants to talk about what are you eating. If your dermatologist isn't encouraging you to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night and get out in the sun occasionally, which that would be a stretch for any dermatologist, get some sun exposure, especially early and late, and maybe reduce or eliminate refined sugar out of your diet. If they're not having these conversations with you, then they're not serving your health and your skin. And so anyway, we've stripped all that down. We've got 4 products. Our launch product, sort of our landmark launching product, was our total skincare bundle, which is a face food, a skin food, and then we have a CBD based skincare elixir. It's a sublingual product that I'm a big fan of. Those are sold together or separately. I'd say our number one selling product is our unscented face food, and then in April of this year, we launched our 4th product, which is we call Epic Dermis, which is our other stuff's really nice. It's, I'm trying to compete with sort of the high end skincare market, and so they're pretty glass jars and beautiful artistry on our labels and all that.
They are very beautiful, Charles. I will say they're.
Oh, thank you. I don't get to take all the credit.
Well,
so,
here,
but yeah,
if you ever buy from Charles, which I hope you do, if you live like somewhere like Florida, just be very cautious when you open the jar, because when it comes in the mail, it's going to be liquid. Of course, you have to kind of turn the jar on its side to kind of get it to pop, and you might lose some of the valuable goods. So let it cool, on the counter for a while, because it will turn liquid. Luckily, my dog cleaned it all up. Yeah. It's really interesting when I put your product on my feet, which I do every morning. I literally have to get my socks on as fast as possible, because he could be halfway across the house and he could smell it. He goes, something's good, and he's running. Like he's running, and anytime that jar opens on the Smart Lard, time I came in and he had gotten the jar of Smart Lard off the counter, and he actually he ate the whole thing. He almost got his tongue stuck in that jar. He was so happy to have it, so it's just like my red light that I use at night. He will park his ass in front of that, or like he's not out right now because it depends. Oh yeah. People used to make fun of my red light in the gym until they'd see their children, like 2- and 3-year-olds. They'd go right up to it and sit down right in front of it and start playing in front of it. And then any dog that would come into the gym would go right up to it too. Like Rommel will come out here on the pool deck, and he'll lay for 20, 30 minutes, with his belly up in the sun, and then when he gets enough, he'll go in the shade. But I mean, he knows exactly how much sun he needs. And he always parks his butt right in front of that red light at night, because I have it on in the background. I turn it away from me so it's not like, any bright light at night. It's not great. But I mean, he loves Smart Lard. I mean, he would eat that stuff all the time if he could. There was a question about corn-fed pigs. Like Charles was saying, pigs need to be healthy, and pigs eat a wide variety. And people don't understand that with chickens either. Chickens are not vegetarians, people. These animals have things that they naturally eat. And when we force animals in a captivity situation to eat things that they normally would not, can be a large part of their diet, it just like humans, it just doesn't end well.
Yeah, Jim, that's a great thing to address. So I'm gonna make a couple of statements. So I'm assuming, the polyunsaturated fatty acids, I call this the PUFA pyramid, PUFA argument. So yes, pigs and chickens, monogastric omnivores, and so they need to be fed properly. And I would say that soy generally is a bigger villain in the increased polyunsaturated fatty acid profile than corn. But absolutely, you have to feed these pigs properly. Now, we fed our pigs a non-GMO soy-free diet. There was corn in there. I think when you start talking about feeding animals, which, again, you don't have to feed cows, but pigs and chickens, you need to, if you're going to concentrate and raise copious amounts of pigs, right? Anybody could throw a single pig and, on an acre of land and leave them alone, and they wouldn't be fat, but they'd grow, but you start raising them in volume, to feed people and various things, and so you've got to augment their feed. And so I love this question, because yes, a pig that's fed poorly is going to have a higher concentration of polyunsaturated fatty acids. The omega-6 to 3 ratio is not going to be ideal. But even in that scenario, I would argue that it's still better than a petroleum derivative byproduct. It's absolutely better than, and I'm so you've got industrial skincare. You have three primary ingredients, and I know this because I tried to make go to Google DIY skincare. My early recipes were experimenting with what's commonly called an emulsification. So you take water, you take a fat on the other end, and you stick an emulsifier in between them. You heat everything up to a similar temperature, and then you whip it, and it makes, I got to tell you, man, it makes the most amazing, luscious creams ever. The problem is if you don't dump a bunch of toxic preservatives, chemicals in there that will stave off and kill bacteria, then in no time flat, like 6 to 7 days, these early creams I was making, luscious, amazing. And then in 7 days, they were rancid, black, full of mold, right? And so the point is, I'm circling around a bunch of different stuff. We'll get back to PUFAs in a minute, but I would argue that the petroleum derivatives used in skincare are bad. They're not. We're not gas. We're not made of gas. We're not a petroleum product. Obviously, we're carbonaceous in our structure, but I don't think they align with human biology very well. But that's honestly secondary concern of mine when I look at industrial skincare. And what I'm more concerned with are the chemicals and preservatives that they have to use to keep these products that have water in them. Every read your label. The first ingredient is aqua, and so they've got to dump these chemicals in there, and we're learning now. These are massively endocrine disrupting compounds. Most of them estrogen signaling, just parabens and phthalates, just to pick on two. But on top of that, we as humans are covered in bacteria. Like we have like a 5 to 7 pound community of bugs living in our gastrointestinal tract, living on our skin and our hair follicles. They're just everywhere. And so those same compounds that are prohibiting bacteria from growing in a water-based skincare product are also
critters on your skin. They're killing the critters in your gut. They're killing the critters in the mouth. So
yeah, it's not good. But again, back to the PUFA argument. Yes, is a industrial raised, confinement raised pig going to be going to have a poorer fatty acid profile? Absolutely. I would argue that much of that comes from their environment as well as their food. It all sort of ties together. But yes, we fed corn to a non-GMO, non-sprayed, beautiful corn, wonderful, beautiful corn. We fed that to our pigs, and I've never had my lard tested.
But that's not the only thing they ate. A lot of these farms.
Oh no,
just soy corn, right? So it's just like a human. You can eat certain things in certain proportions and still have a very healthy human. That's one of the reasons we're still here, right? Is our ability to adapt and eat different things in our environment. It's I had a little brain fart there, but it's very interesting that these preservatives are causing so many issues for people, whether it's preservatives in your skincare or your makeup products. Suntan lotion is another one that has a whole shit show of catastrophe in it. Not to mention blocking the sun raises your risk of death higher. The water has all sorts of crazy crap in it, and we're just being assaulted on all fronts with all sorts of absolute industrial garbage that is being put into our bodies. So it's super important to anything that goes on your skin or in your body. But it's funny, we'll have people that don't have a lot of money, and they'll ask me what should I eat? And I'm like, well, if you have to eat a conventionally raised, you can't get grass-fed beef. Go to Walmart, buy the conventional stuff, cook it, drain the fat. That's where most of the toxins are going to be anyways. Your body stores garbage in the fat. Eat that. That's better than not eating protein at all. Sometimes you have to make choices that aren't as good. I would rather eat conventionally raised meat than not eat meat at all. I mean, I think, there's more benefits to it. than skipping it altogether. Because a lot of people will be like, well, this is toxic. But sometimes you've got to make choices, right? And sometimes people can't afford. I mean, some of the grass-fed beef, I'm very lucky here in Florida. We have Sprouts, and they sell big packets of like 85 and 85 lean, and I think it's like $4.99, $5.99 a pound, which is still pretty reasonable considering a lot of the places like Publix and that you're looking at $8.99, $9.99, $10.99, $11.99 a pound. So it's getting out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jim, it's part of the psyop. So we've chased cheap, and we've chased calories, and we haven't chased nutrition. Like, so take the $12
by design, I would argue.
What's that?
By design, I would argue.
Oh, no question about it. But I mean, take that $11 pound of grass finished high end beef, and you take that $11 and you go try and buy food in a box that carries the same vitamin and mineral content as that pound of ground beef, you're going to have to spend $30.
Well, you're going to be eating all day. Like the amount of calories you're going to have to get is going to be insane. And then you're going to have to be eating a lot of things that doesn't make your gut very happy. So you're going to have IBS, and then you're going to be on, then you're going to have, acid reflux. They're going to put you on a protein pump inhibitor and all the rest of it. It's just like, it's a spiral out of control. And, Rob talked a lot about this in his book. What was his book about? Wired to Eat. He talks about how these people, wired to eat these people in the food industry know more about evolutionary biology than evolutionary biologists do. And they know the right flavors and the right textures and the right amount of fat, the right amount of salt to keep you eating. Your body thinks they're getting this highly nutritional, like a Dorito has lime and all these different flavors that traditionally would have a lot of nutrition in them. Your body's thinking, wow, I'm getting this great food. This has all the taste and the flavor of things that I need. And then the body does an inventory after it ate the whole bag. It's like, I don't have anything. Like, I didn't get any of the nutrition that I need. Let's go looking for more food, right? So you end up, and then you combine that with an indoor lifestyle and not sleeping enough. It just becomes this like, giant snowball of chicanery that just keeps riding down the hill. Charles, do you ship your products worldwide?
So far, we've if I'm not currently shipping.
Anyone in Turdakistan buy your lard, or do they just go out and get it?
So far, no. I mean, listen, we've shipped to the EU, we've shipped to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK. I've shipped to South Africa. So what usually happens is someone will send me, on our website, a contact us. Do you ship to, X, Uzbekistan, right? And so I go onto our platform and I look and I'm like, well, I guess we don't. And so I'll set it up. I sort of do a guessing game. I've had to change our international shipping, what we charge for international shipping on 2 different countries. I've had to change it because I just sort of went in and said, okay, maybe it's going to be $25. And South Africa, good God, man, it's like $1,000 to ship something to South Africa. But yeah, we ship it anywhere. Obviously, I'd love to concentrate in the good old US of A and North America. But yeah, it's been everywhere. I just shipped one to Hawaii last week, 2 to Alaska. The arid climates love our stuff, man.
Yeah, you've got a really good automated thing too, where you get a discount. It's shipped automatically. I could see the customs agents in Turdakistan like opening the package and being like, "What is this?" Like opening it up, sniffing it. What is this stuff, right? They look at the.
At least it's not a powder.
Yeah, it's true.
At least it's not a powder. And
on that note, one of the things that Dr. Stillman and I love about your product is it's great for transdermal delivery. We mix Lugolds with it. We've actually talked about doing some stuff with you and developing like a product like that. We mix Lugolds with the lard all the time because the Lugolds actually binds with the fat And, for wounds and for, things of that nature, the combination of Lugol's iodine and your product is like money. You want to heal a wound really fast, you put some smart lard on there with some Lugol's mixed in. You're going to kill
How are you
whatever
mixing it?
funky. I just put it in there and stir it. I just get a little stir stick, just stir it up, and it goes in there like easy like Sunday morning.
I have some Lugol's on my counter at home so that I can experiment with it. I just haven't had the time to do it, so I will tinker around with that. No, listen. I think most things that are fats. I mean, fat solubility, right? And so I do think that smart lard could be an absolute game-changing delivery mechanism for a whole bunch of stuff. If you've got,
I think HRT would be great for that. Testosterone creams and things like that.
Oh, for sure.
A great delivery.
Well, think about the dermatology world. Okay, so I've got insert any chronic skin condition, eczema, psoriasis, acne, all the things, right? Forget talking about like the underlying probably dietary causes. Let's just talk topical treatments. Well, sure. In the dermatologist world, you're talking about an industrially made sort of static goop, which is like, call it pharmaceutical grade cream, right? And then you take that, base cream, and then you mix in the various active ingredients, I'll use air quotes there, to address the specific skincare condition. Jim, I get texts, emails, calls weekly from people that suffer from eczema, psoriasis, cheilitis, any of these chronic, even acne. And it's like, man, I started using your cream and all of a sudden everything got better. And it's, again, they're using a water-based cream, which means it's got all these chemicals in it, right, to deliver an active ingredient. I'm not saying that those active ingredients aren't beneficial and they aren't effective, but you're delivering them in a mechanism that's, again, harming the skin. And so
doesn't a water-based cream also dry the skin out more?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, if anyone that's ever gotten out of the ocean and stood on the beach for half a second, your skin dries out, right? So people associate, so that you take your store-bought cream and you rub it on your arm and it goes on wet, and in a matter of 30 seconds, it's dry, right? And people are like, oh, it's soaked in. Well, that's not true. What happened was that as you spread that 70% water on your skin, right, it evaporates. And if you're not too lucky, in the evaporative process, this is how evaporative cooling works. As it's evaporating, it will additionally pull moisture from your skin out into the air. And so, yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy.
I got to put more cream on, Charles. So I put more cream on, it dries my skin out even more. I got to put more cream. I have a cream deficiency, Charles. I have a cream. I need more. Give me more give me not Vaseline, but give me more whatever product it is, and keep rubbing it on there, because it's obviously I got to keep putting more on and more on. Isn't there there's like a massive similarity between like the skin of pigs or the composition of fat with pigs in our system? They match up like super, super well.
So again, what's that?
I said a big Hercules just went over, C1.
Yeah.
C1.
So,
whatever it is.
Yeah. So again, people don't understand this. Pigs are so similar to humans that we train our surgeons on them. Okay. And we use pig parts inside of human bodies. If you have a person in your life that's been the recipient of a donated organ, okay, like one of the absolute most critical things with organ donation is is the body accepting it, right? So there's all this testing on the front end. Blood types have to match, and so there's just tons of work because you don't want the human body to reject this new organ. Okay, we can drop a pig heart valve in a human to fix a human heart. No worries, no problem, right? So the biology is a spot on match. And, when you start talking about skincare, listen, I'm not here to tell anyone listening that coconut oil, even though I think it clogs our pores, or shea butter, or, macadamia or olive oil. I'm not here to bemoan or say bad things about any of those fats as a possible source of moisturization on our skin. However, we're not a coconut. We're not an olive, right? The closest animal to us domestically on the planet, genetically, is a pig. Period.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be buying your chimpanzee lard, gorilla lard product. I don't think that would be a very good product to sell.
Well, there's a market for everything. I just don't want to go through the process of harvesting and acquiring such fat.
We'll leave those guys alone.
Hey, listen, bacon tastes amazing, right?
Yeah.
Pork chops are out of this world. Pulled pork is one of the greatest gifts to culinary humanity. And
if you've never had, I've had some of your pork chops. So there's a lady that trained at my gym named Jen Rankin, who has a farm just outside Lexington, Kentucky, Rankin Farm. I used to buy pork chops from her all the time. If you haven't had a pork chop from somebody that raises pigs and they love their pigs and they let the pigs graze and they feed them all sorts of different stuff and they let them, roam and wander. If you haven't had a pork chop, you are missing out on life, because there is nothing. Just make sure you don't overcook it, because you'll cook a lot faster than a commercially raised pig, because overcooking it is a sin. But
I would argue you haven't had pork.
Correct. I would argue you haven't had pork.
If you have not eaten, store-bought pork is not pork. It's bleached. It's orc. It's
orc. Yeah, I would argue that a high quality pork chop from somebody who raises healthy, happy pigs, I'll put it up there with the best filet. I'll put it right there with the tomahawk ribeye. I will put it there with any cut of beef. It is absolutely phenomenal. And if you get real bacon from somebody who raises healthy pigs too, that is also an experience that is well worth your effort. If you can find a local farmer that you can support or a farmer's market and buy some pasture raised pork, fantastic.
It's where it's at, man. It's where it's at. Yeah. We're both encouraging people to find a pastured pork provider, and Farrow is a company. So back to the origin story. So the very first pig that I ever sold a customer, right? I raised some pigs. This goes all the way back to like 2017. Raised these pigs. It's time to take them to the butcher. I have two friends in Atlanta that each bought half a pig. And so I said, do you want me to just tell them how to cut it up? Yeah, just cut it up however you cut your pig up. And so, of course, I go to the butcher and pick it up. And, of course, all the fat. I want the leaf fat. I want the back fat. We're not wasting any of this animal. And so I deliver, the butts and the chops and the belly and the ground pork. I deliver that, and the fat. I deliver it to these customers. And my phone rings in about a week. My good buddy Luke, and he's like, "Hey man, what am I supposed to do with this fat?" I was like, "Oh, glad you asked, man. You grind it up and you put it in a slow cooker and you render it down, and then you can cook with it. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's the most amazing. If you haven't cooked with lard, do it." All right, cool. Hangs up the phone. About another week goes by, And Luke calls me and he's like, "Hey man, can you just come get this fat? We're not going to do anything with it." And so yeah, I started saving the fat from all of my pigs and all my cows, and I played around, made some soaps and various things, but yeah, so when it came time to start tinkering with and developing these products, I had this freezer full of fat that no one else wanted, and I was rendering some of it to cook. That's how this. I came home. I mean, we go into this on the website, but I had this nasty sunburn. Come home in an act of desperation. I had this jar of lard in my refrigerator that I was cooking with and frying with, and lathered that stuff on. And God Almighty, the sunburn was gone in a couple of days, and then I never peeled, and that was it. That was what started it.
That's awesome. And if you like, the Charles Mayfield pork rinds are on another level. It's extra, like it's almost like from another planet. It's extraterrestrial. If you can find somebody who really knows how to make pork rinds from high quality pork products, absolutely, I guess you would call them chicharrones. Would that be correct?
Chicharrones.
Chicharrones. Absolutely phenomenal. And this all goes back to like traditional cultures. Like they use the whole animal, whereas in our modern world, we waste a lot of the best parts of the animal.
I was on a Twitter Spaces. I know you and I were on. I was on with James Berry last night. He's the guy that founded Eat Pluck. And he's one of these other guys that's dedicated to whole animal and using the whole animal, and he's got a fantastic company. They take organ meats, desiccated organ meats, and mix them into spice blends, and so phenomenal. But we're talking last night, and he's like, "Dude, I have the hardest time in the U.S. sourcing my pancreas and my spleen because the USDA just will hardly let those organs be utilized." And it's not that dissimilar with what goes on with the pig and brains, all the things. We don't use any of this stuff. We don't use the whole animal.
Up in Canada, we had a massive problem with you actually could have a little side gig if you would sell your black bear pancreas to the Chinese. You could have a nice little side business.
Big money. Big money.
They would literally, kill a black bear and like literally just take the pancreas and leave the rest of the bear, which I don't think is good practice. But we had actually a massive black bear problem in Aspen, and then also in Canada where I was from, because we had these ideologues that got in power that had no idea how nature works, that there's balance in the system, there has to be predators, there has to be, and in Aspen, as these bears, got pushed out of their territory and they took the hunting season away, all of a sudden there was more bears and they started coming into town. And eventually some people that actually had brains, restored like the spring bear hunt. But it's all about balance in nature, right? And nature balances itself out. Charles,
does a pretty good job.
We would stay on here all day, but we know we both have things we need to get to. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. Where can people find you? If you go down in the description, I've got a bunch of links to Charles' stuff. Where can people find you on Instagram? Where you have a YouTube channel? Where people find you?
Instagram is at Farrow Skin. Twitter is at Farrow Life. If you want to go to, this will be my inaugural announcement. We've got a discount for anyone that wants to sign up with us. If you'll go to lardforthewin.com, lardforthewin.com. Yeah, thank you. You can give us your first name and your email address, and we'll ship you off a super discount code to save on our products. And obviously that'll ultimately kick you over to our website, farrow.life. You're welcome to go there, but there's a sweet discount code this is the inaugural announcement for Lard for the Win, here with Lard, you, Jim.
So is that one word? Is it for or
Lard, FOR? Lard for the win.
LAR, LAR for FOR.
No, Lard. Lard. LARDFORTHEWIN. Lard for the win.
Yeah, because you could get confused and put like the number 4 in there. And how did you?
Oh yeah.
How did you come up with that website idea? Were you like taking some psychedelics or?
No, but the person. Well, one of the things I'm remaining committed to, Jim, is having fun doing this, and the puns with working with Lard are. I mean, we say the Lard works in mysterious ways. Lard willing, our sales will keep going up. Lard be with me, Lard be with you. I mean, we're having a lot of fun with Lard, and so
Lard is a lot of fun. So,
yep.
Charles, I hope you have a wonderful day, and it was great chatting with you. Thanks for coming on. Thank you for watching, Michelle. If you're not on our email list, go to my LinkedIn or Dr. Stillman's LinkedIn, or you could go to Stillman Wellness MD and fill out the capture page. We are actually, Dr. Stillman is doing a HTMA course at the end of this month. He's actually doing a webinar to sell the course, but we've had so many people interested in buying the course before it's even released that we're actually later today, we're going to be sending out a link to purchase the course, and we're only selling 30. So you're going to want to get in on that. It's basically it's going to include some HTMA testing, some group coaching with Dr. Stillman and Clark Engelbert. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and so you don't miss out. And then we're going to figure something out if it sells out to help you guys that still want to learn about HTMA testing. Charles, have a wonderful day. You're in Tennessee, I assume.
I am. You as well, sir.
I will try my best. Take care, and thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.